every day are pouring Chinese resources in there to keep North Koreans from coming into China.
Senator Biden?
The chairman's exactly correct. He said that back in '03. I've said that back in '03. Look, it's either you want regime change or conduct change. Let's get something straight here. You don't say to somebody, by the way, put down the very thing that you can keep us out of your hair militarily, and by the way, after you put it down, we're going to take you out. Just rationally. Doesn't work very well. And every single party we're working with, every one of them, from Japan to Korea to Russia, has encouraged us privately to talk directly with North Korea. Carl Levin's point. So it seems to me we step up to this. And by the way, it'd be fine if the president had an alternative plan. How's he going to change the regime? Is he going to go to war? Does he have the capacity while he's locked down in Iraq, while we're worrying about Iran? And keep in mind, Iran is watching very closely how we handle this.
I want to get to Iran in a second, but Senator Warner, do you join the Greek chorus here that the president's policy is wrong on North Korea?
I think the president has done a very commendable job on North Korea. I really do. And Secretary Rice and our negotiators have handled it just correctly. Let's remind ourselves, I served in the Korean War in the Marines. No great footnote in history, but we have, in 1953, we reached an armistice, and we're still not able to negotiate a final settlement of that conflict. It's in our interest to have a nuclear-free peninsula. It is in our interest not to provide a basis through North Korea's pushing ahead on nuclear weapons to have Japan or South Korea think it. The President was right. Negotiations must be left to the six-party talks. Conversations on the side take place, as all of us know, in diplomatic areas. So that's fine, conversation. Negotiations, he's been right, leave it to the six, because we do not want the other powers to point to us and say, you didn't handle this right, USA, it's your fault, now you take care of the problem. China has the leverage, as Senator Lugar said, with the energy and the food. South Korea has leverage because of their bilateral relationships. Those countries, and I think China has been very responsible in coming forward and applying pressure. Just leave it as it is. The administration did a good job.
Let's turn to Iran, and Senator Biden, you brought that up because Secretary of State Rice said this week the fact that we got this united 15-0 vote out of the UN Security Council and the apparent willingness to enforce it, we did see the Chinese get a little tougher than I think a lot of us expected with North Korea this week, sends a message to Iran, if you continue with your uranium program, you're going to have problems too. On the other hand, when she met yesterday with the Russian foreign minister, he said, I don't support sanctions. Diplomacy, as we now have it, as the track that we're on, is that going to work or not work with Iran?
It can work if we increase to that on that track the willingness to directly talk as well. And look, John Kennedy said a long time ago, we should never negotiate out of fear, but we should never fear to negotiate. The bottom line here is if regime change is the operative element of this administration's policy, you are never going to get to the point where you end up with a diplomatic solution. There may be no diplomatic solution in the end. That's possible. We may have crossed the line, or they may have crossed the line. But what's going to happen, I suggest to the chairman, is while we fool around with these, you're going to see Japan go nuclear, and you're going to see China react to Japan going nuclear, and you're going to see a chain of events set in motion that are going to be significantly damaging to the next generation of Americans. And so it seems to me we should get off this wicket of suggesting that we won't talk. I mean, what are we afraid of in talking?
Let me bring in, it's a good question, let me bring in Senator Lugar. Do you also support one-on-one direct talks with Iran?
I think that would be useful, but I think even more useful right now would be as a part of our negotiations with Iran to bring together the members of the Security Council, Germany, the nations that surround Iraq, including Iran. That is, bring the Iranians into a conversation about Iraq.
Exactly.
Now, regardless of whether we have timetables for withdrawal, whether our troops come back as opposed to intensively going into neighborhoods of Baghdad, there's got to be some perimeter defense here of Iraq, some physical integrity. That's important to Iran. Exactly. So I would just change the subject a little bit. I would say, Iranians, we have something to talk to you about that's very important to you existentially. And that may not get to the nuclear thing, but I think it does indirectly. After a while, you have at least some basis on which they have the integrity of their country.
Finally, and we've only got a couple of minutes left, I want to just talk briefly about politics, and I'd like to do it, if possible, in as nonpartisan a way as we can. I know there's a lot of talk on the part. I know Senator Warner's going like, good luck to you. But I know there's a lot of talk, Republicans saying the Democrats want to cut and run, Democrats saying Republicans want to mindlessly, stay the course. Senator Warner, what's at stake in this election? If Democrats gain control of one or both houses of Congress, what's going to change? And if so, what's going to be wrong with it?
Well, the dynamics will change markedly because you have a whole framework of new personalities taking over the committees. I happen to have a lot of respect for Carl Levin, and I do for most of my colleagues, and indeed this gentleman on my right. We've gone toe-to-toe many times. So let's focus on the House. I think the reality is
no, but what will
Senate,
change for U.S. foreign policy?
Beg pardon?
What will change for U.S. foreign policy?
Certainly, the nations of the world will have to become adjusted to the various chairmen. Let's put the Senate to one side. I'm confident we're going to hold that. The House is where the question mark is. And there you've got a framework of chairmen coming in which give us all a little pause to figure out just which direction they're going to go. But that's America. The people have spoken. You got to remember, in all of these things, the power is not in the presidency or in the Congress. It's in the people of the United States. If they speak, then we have to work within the framework that they've established with these new individuals.
And very briefly, Senator Biden, what's at stake
in terms of foreign policy? If the Democrats regain control, you're going to see 12 to 14 Republicans freed up to go out and join in a bipartisan way to tell the president we are seriously off course. If the Democrats don't make gains, it'll be a reaffirmation that for this administration, stay the course, and I believe that would be a disaster.
And you think there are a dozen Republicans chomping at the bit?
I know there are at least 3 that have approached me before we left.
Well, I don't know. They're both.
No, neither one of these 2 gentlemen.
Neither one of those. Senators Lugar, Biden, Warner, Levin, we want to thank you all so much. I thought it was a very useful conversation. Appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.
Coming up, our Sunday regulars.